It's that time of year. Rosh Hashanah is coming. We're getting ready. We're making our list of food that we're going to cook. And there are a huge amount of food customs related to Rosh Hashanah. Some of them are Ashkenazi customs. Some of them are Sephardi ones. And some of them everybody does. Let's talk a little bit more about all the things that we do the same and the things that we do differently for Rosh Hashanah food. Hey everyone, it's Dora from flippinghousesanpancakes.com. Rosh Hashanah is coming, the new year, the Jewish New Year, the new year for the world. It's coming, and we're getting ready to do all of our cooking, and there's so many food customs in this one. Not like Pesach. Pesach's like really strict. These ones are more fun. Fun food customs, that's what we like. So I'm going to discuss the Ashkenazi ones. Remember, I grew up Ashkenazi, and I'm going to discuss the Sephardi food customs when it comes to Rosh Hashanah. And it happens to be there's more similarities than differences for Rosh Hashanah food. Let's talk about them because they're super fun. We'll start with the similarities, the things that we all do. The first thing that you probably have noticed with Rosh Hashanah food is sweet food. We eat sweet food on Rosh Hashanah, and the point of the sweet food is to symbolize that we want to have a sweet new year. We want to start the year off with something sweet, and hopefully that will lead us into an entire year of sweet moments and sweet happiness and good things. So we eat sweet foods, Ashkenazim, Sephardim, everybody, we eat sweet foods for Rosh Hashanah. Everybody knows about apples and honey, of course. And that's one of the reasons that we eat apples and honey. That's the main reason, Shana Tova Umetuka, Shana Tova Umesuka, however you want to say it, that we should have a good and sweet new year. Those apples, the honey, it's all really important. And most Ashkenazim and Sephardim all do apples and honey. There are some Sephardim who do not use honey. They will use sugar. They will maybe cook the apples in sugar. But for the most part, most Ashkenazim and Sephardim, it is just widely used custom to eat apples and honey for Rosh Hashanah to remind us and to symbolize that we should have a happy new year. Now, the next thing that almost all Ashkenazim and Sephardim do is that we change the shape of our challah. Normally, we'll braid our challah into a long loaf for Shabbos and for Yom Tov, but for Rosh Hashanah, we change the shape of our challah and we make round challahs. Why do we make round challahs for Rosh Hashanah? Well, the round shape, the circle, symbolizes essentially the circle of life, and that we've gone full circle through a whole year and we're getting ready to start a new one. And so our challahs go round and round, just like the circle of life. Everything goes round and round. And there's so many things that I actually wrote this down on the list because I don't want to forget any of them. I'm like going to finish my video and be like, I forgot one of the things I wanted to say. So we do have round challahs to symbolize the circle of life. And that is pretty universal in terms of Ashkenazim and Sephardim. There is one difference between Ashkenazim and Sephardim that you'll note for Rosh Hashanah, and that is this. Ashkenazim are going to make their challahs extra sweet. They'll put raisins in it. That's the most classic challah with raisins. They'll also sometimes, I've seen chocolate, I've seen cinnamon and sugar, I've seen all different types of how do we make our challahs more sweet. And that is again to symbolize that we are having sweet challah for a sweet new year. However, for Sephardim, that's a big no-no, because Sephardim won't wash and make a hamotzi bracha on a sweet challah. We only use water challah. I got married pretty close to Rosh Hashanah. I got married in the summer, and I did not know this halacha. Well, this minhag, I should say. It's not halacha. I did not know that Sephardim won't eat raisin challah. So, of course, my first Rosh Hashanah, I made raisin challah. That was like, maybe I should have just like asked first before I made it. I had to buy some challah that year. Anyhow, I've never made raisin challah since, so it's okay. We survived it. It's okay. It was like, oh, we can't wash on that. Oh well. So Ashkenazim will eat the sweet the sweet challah, round sweet challahs for Rosh Hashanah. Sephardim, they're going to eat the round challahs, but the water ones, not sweet at all, okay? Now, a lot of the food that we eat on Rosh Hashanah, a lot of those food customs, it's very symbolic. It's all meant to be a symbol of something that we want in the coming year. And so I have a whole list I'll show you. And in fact, for Sephardim, it's a very complicated list. And so I make these charts with my kids every year, and we have actually laminated them just so that they don't get dirty and messed up and things get spilled on them. Because Sephardim do a lot of symbolic foods. Ashkenazim do fewer ones, but I think it's kind of catching on. I think more Ashkenazim are doing some more of the symbolic foods just because it's so nice. Like, it's just a nice thing. Some people say special brachos when they eat the special foods on Rosh Hashanah, and some people don't. We do. We have a bracha for each one as we eat them. But growing up, there was like one bracha and that was it. Like, and everything was just more symbolic food on the table. So let's talk about the most common one that everybody pretty much does: apples and honey. Apples and honey, again, there's all kinds of different reasons. If you look up apples and Rosh Hashanah, there's a whole bunch of different reasons why we use apples. I'm not going to get into all those today, but definitely go online and look it up, because I've read like 5 or 6 different reasons why we use apples. But we know why we use honey. Honey is sweet. Honey is one of those things, like we talk about Israel being the land of milk and honey. We use honey because it's sweet. We use apples, and it's pretty universally used. There are some Sephardi groups, some Sephardi communities that won't use honey, but they will cook the apples in sugar. Pretty much everybody does apples and honey or apples and sugar, and that's again for a sweet new year. Shana Tova Umatuka. Okay, so we have almost every single person, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, pretty much everybody does apples and honey, which is why you see that so often. Another symbolic food that we eat, usually Rosh Hashanah night. Most of these things are eaten the first and second nights of Rosh Hashanah. Not during the day necessarily, although some people will eat foods made out of honey, made like honey cake or apple cake, because we use apples and honey a lot. Anything sweet the whole Rosh Hashanah. But these foods are specifically eaten at the night meal on the first night and the second night. So a lot of people, like I said, will eat the apples and honey. Pomegranate is another one that most people will eat. Most Ashkenazim and Sephardim will eat pomegranate on Rosh Hashanah. Pomegranate is said to have 613 seeds, just like the 613 mitzvos in the Torah. And therefore, that's a very symbolic fruit. It's sweet. If you got a good one, it's sweet. And it symbolizes that we want to have all those mitzvos. We want to have a year full of all the mitzvos, just like the pomegranate is full of all the seeds. Another very common minhag, a very common custom of food for those nights is to have some head of something on the table. Now, some people use a fish head, and they'll put a fish head on the table. Some people will put a rosh keves, which is an entire lamb head or sheep's head on the table. Some people will just put some cheek meat on the table, cooked cheek meat. I know my mother-in-law does cooked cheek meat. A lot of the kids at the table will eat the cheek meat, and everybody else will eat the gummy fish heads. You know, you get the little gummy fish, and they bite the head off, and they eat the head of the fish, and they make a special wish, right? And that is just so that we, for this year, again, it's symbolic that this year we'll be at the head and we won't be at the tail. We'll be successful. It'll be a successful year, like the head of the fish or the lamb, and not like the tail. And of course, there's other symbolic reasons why people use the head of a lamb. Has to do with Akedas Yitzchak, right? I'm not going to go into all the reasons why we do all the different simanim, why we do all these different customs, food customs and symbolic foods, but it's definitely fun to research it. So if you want to know more about why we put specifically a lamb's head on the table or a sheep's head on the table, go ahead and look it up. It's really fun to find out all the interesting reasons that we use specific things. Now, Ashkenazim very often will put carrots on the table, either just honeyed carrots, or perhaps they'll make a tzimmis, which is a cooked carrot, usually with maybe some sweet potatoes. Sometimes people put prune. Sometimes people put meat. Everybody does their tzimmis a little differently. It's a stewed carrot dish. And again, the reason, first of all, it's always sweet because, of course, we want it to be a sweet New Year. But we also use carrot because in Yiddish, that is very close to a word for more. It means more. We should have more of everything. Everything should be increased. We should be successful this year. So Ashkenazim will very often eat carrots, just again as a symbolic, we should be successful sort of a thing. Sephardim don't usually do carrots, but Sephardim will do, I don't want to forget them, dates and beans and zucchini and beets and leeks, and most of those are symbolic either for different reasons, either so that we have like a successful year full of lots of good things, or they're symbolic that we should not have enemies who attack us and we should be safe. And different fruits and vegetables are symbolic for different reasons there. So, very, very interesting. And here I have like my little paper that my kids use. So it says like the beans, we use black-eyed peas. I like black-eyed peas. Do you guys like black-eyed peas? Anyhow, they grow in abundance, right? If you've ever grown beans, they grow really well. They make lots of beans, and it's a symbol that we should have lots of beans. It's a symbol that we should have lots of beans this year. No, it's a symbol that we should have a lot of success. Leeks are kares, right? Karti, kares, they have the same shoresh. Kares means like cut off, just that our enemies should be cut off from doing us any harm. So some people will cook leeks. In my husband's family, we rip them up. Some people will chew them. Everybody does their own thing. Salka, which we use beets for, and that's again to keep our enemies away from us, and things like that. Dates are also pretty much, we have a lot. It's a lot of like, we eat this so that our enemies won't harm us, and we eat that so hopefully our enemies will not harm us. We do a lot of, we don't want our enemies to harm us. Unfortunately, throughout the generations, that's been a big concern. There's also okay, my in-laws do this thing with lung, when they like roast it and you chew it and you really can't swallow it and you have to like spit it out. I did that 1 year. I told my mother-in-law, I'm Yotze, like I did it, I've done this one, I'm not doing it again. Anyhow, don't do that one. It's okay. It's fine. So for the most part, there's all different, and there's more. I'm not even telling you all of the things. That's most of the ones that Sephardim do, and most of the ones that Ashkenazim do. But there are so many different symbolic foods that people will eat. Again, is just a symbol of we want things to be plentiful. We want to be successful. We want to be healthy. We want to be safe. Those are a lot of the things we do. And then there's foods, and that's Ashkenazi and Sephardi, and some communities will do them a little differently, where they'll use Swiss chard instead of beets, or they'll use a different kind of squash instead of zucchini, or they'll do carrots, or they won't do carrots, or things like that. Because everybody's got a little difference, or they'll make it in a specific way, or they won't. But for the most part, we do just tend to eat lots of symbolic foods. There are also things we don't eat on Rosh Hashanah. And no, this is not like Pesach where it's very strict and rigid. A lot of people will not eat anything sour or bitter on Rosh Hashanah, again, because we want the year to be sweet. So we don't want to start with anything sour or bitter. It's very challenging for Persians. They eat a lot of sour foods. So to have sweet food on Rosh Hashanah is a big challenge. But a lot of people won't eat anything that has vinegar in it, lemon juice in it, anything sour or bitter. Also, there's plenty of people who won't eat walnuts. Walnuts are egozim. That's the Hebrew name, egoz. And if you take the numerical value of each of those letters, because each letter has a numerical value, it's the same as chet. And chet is a sin. And it's a sin. And we don't want to have any sins. We want to have a year full of purity and goodness and mitzvos and not sins. So a lot of people will not eat walnuts because it's got the same name. And there's other reasons also. Some people won't eat any nuts at all, and there's several reasons for that we don't need to go into. I think some people say it has to do with it could create phlegm, which will make it hard for you to daven, hard for you to pray. I don't know. We eat nuts in our house. I just hit myself with my own little... Anyhow, we eat nuts on Rosh Hashanah, so I don't know. But I do know that there's a lot of people who don't eat nuts, specifically walnuts, but some people don't eat any nuts on Rosh Hashanah. And some people, like I said, most people don't eat vinegar, lemon juice, things like that on Rosh Hashanah, or specifically bitter or sour foods. This is the time for sweet foods, a sweet New Year, and there's all around the world, every community has a little difference, a little this special food, that special food. So I grew up eating things like brisket, chicken with a sweet sauce, glazed carrots or tzimmus. My mother liked to make tzimmus. And raisin challah. My husband's family, they make plain challah and abgusht, which is like a meat soup, kind of like a thick meat soup that has beans and vegetables in it, and rice. And they do a lot of the simonim, a lot of those symbolic foods. And when I grew up, we only did a few. But for the most part, it's just about, we want a sweet year. Everybody does it a little differently. Everybody does the customs a little differently, and the different foods a little differently. And because it's not like Pesach, if you're like, well, I really like that one, maybe we'll do that one too. I know a lot of people who've taken to doing like cooking different things with leeks, or just cooking different foods, extra foods, because they like having all those symbols, all of those simonim at their meals. And there's one more thing I forgot to talk about. The new fruit, the second day of Rosh Hashanah, the second night of Rosh Hashanah, we usually make a shehachianu on a new fruit. And a shehachianu is a bracha that you make, that you made it the whole year. It's something it's usually on something that's new. So either something you've never had before or something you haven't had for like a whole year. And we'll get special fruits that we haven't had for a whole year or we've never had before. And we will make this special bracha saying that, well, like, thank you, Hashem, for getting us all the way this whole year, getting us all the way to this point where we can make a shehachianu, where we can have a new food because it's been so long. Like, we made a whole year to get here. Thank you for getting us all the way to this point so we can enjoy this new fruit. And so a lot of times we get to go and get really exciting things. I have one kid who likes golden berries. I buy them one time a year. I'm like, nope, I get those for Rosh Hashanah. They're gooseberries, golden berries. Or a lot of people will go get star fruit if they haven't eaten it the whole year. People will go get dragon fruit, just experimenting with new and interesting things. And I'll be having a good time at the grocery store and before Rosh Hashanah, finding something new and exciting to taste. And so that's one of the other things that everybody does, not just Ashkenazim. Ashkenazim do it, Sephardim do it. Everybody will eat a new fruit the second night of Rosh Hashanah and get to make that special bracha to be joyful about the fact that we made it all the way to the point where we could have a new fruit and it's special. And so for the most part, most of our customs are similar or the same. Obviously, there are some fun differences, But these are not tricky or hard differences like Pesach. Pesach's very tricky, complicated. These are easy and fun and just symbolic and just a great way to start the new year. And so I hope that you have enjoyed hearing about some of the interesting foods that we eat on Rosh Hashanah. And if you did, I hope you'll like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you find out every time I upload a new video. And let me know in the comments what your new fruit, what your food is that you like. You like a new fruit, a specific one? Do you like one of the simanim, one of the special symbolic foods? What is your favorite food that you eat on Rosh Hashanah? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to find out what you like the best. Also, best honey cake ever. It's in my cookbook. So if you don't have that, it's also on Amazon and on my website. So check out my website, flippinghouseandpancakes.com. Best honey cake is in my cookbook. I'm telling you, amazing. And I wish you all a happy new year.